what I do with dogs like you're describing is I play a little game, like a little check-in game. And there's a lot of things I'm looking for when I do this. So if I'm walking the dog around the neighborhood, I'm looking for opportunities where the dog is calm, where I can visibly see that they're calmer, right, than maybe they just were, so that I can praise that. What's up, beautiful people? Welcome back to another episode of the Pack Leader Mentality Podcast. This is episode
is this?
12. Yeah.
Nice.
Damn, we got another Q&A day for you
that.
guys. Yeah, so thank you guys for being here. Let's jump right in.
All right, let's do it.
What do we got?
I love these questions. I feel like I always say that I love these questions, but these are really great questions. And just wanted to say thank you guys for submitting them. And I hope that this resolves the issues that you're having.
Yeah.
So
the pressure's on.
I know. Better solve it now.
All right, what do we got?
Question 1. I have a 9-month-old doodle that tolerates his crate. He eats and sleeps in it and spends time in his crate if I need a break from him while I'm at home or if I leave the house. My problem with him is that he demand barks when he has had enough or has to go potty, but only been inside the crate less than an hour, and I think he should hold it. So I put on a bark collar from Educator BP 504. He no longer barks, but does this whine that sounds like a bird chirping. How do I get him to stop this and relax in his crate? I guess it's worth mentioning that I have 2 boxers that love their crate, so I have high expectations.
Okay. So while I'm not opposed to the bark collar, I wouldn't necessarily call barking to go potty demand barking, unless you're telling me that he's been barking and you think he has to go potty and then you let him out, but he doesn't, and he learns to play. And he learns that that's how he can get you to let him out, is by barking. So just want to clarify that, because barking to go to the bathroom is a good thing and we shouldn't ever punish for that. However, one thing that I would suggest is that you provide mental stimulation toys, or I should say chew items, for the dog to enjoy and sort of entertain himself with. If you're just putting the dog in the crate and expecting them to just want to be in there, I would say that's a fault on your end. Try to make it as enjoyable as possible. One thing that I always recommend for my clients is to create a pretty consistent routine in the way that you utilize the crate. So play and train and play, like expel the dog's energy, get them physically tired, and then put them in the crate and give them something to enjoy, like a stuffed Kong, bully stick, or something like that. And the idea with that is kind of like giving a kid a coloring book, or I guess in today's age, giving them a iPad, but it's just basically like a form of self-entertainment. So here's your thing, enjoy that. And I think that'll help at least occupy the dog. And the other thing too is, like, if they are getting a correction from the bark collar, then at least we're giving them something else to do, as opposed to just sit there and sulk with the collar on, which is what it sounds like he's doing. Yeah. So now,
well, too, he's 9 months old, and it's a doodle, and they tend to be high energy.
Yeah,
so I think for sure, like, expelling that energy out before you put him in there.
Yeah, and I'm not I said, I'm not opposed to the bark collar, but I would just make sure that you're taking care of everything on your end that you're responsible for, which is a good quality amount of physical and mental stimulation. And so with that out of the way, then yeah, you can have the expectation for your dog to be in the crate and be quiet. And I would say that you're right. But if you're not giving the dog that, and then you're just putting him in there and putting a bark collar on, I think that's a mistake and not really fair to the dog. And then lastly, with all that said, if you're still running into that issue and it is just the dog being whiny and, being persistent with that, then I would say I would use an e-collar. And then this way you have control over it, because the bark collar is not going to pick up whining, but you would just have to be consistent with that. And again, this is under the assumption that you're doing everything in your possible, I would say everything right by the dog in terms of exercising, training and playing, physical stimulation, and then mental stimulation in the kennel for what I like to call downtime. So
I have a question
Sure.
to this though. Now, could the dog potentially associate the corrections to the crate, because if they're not getting corrected anywhere else,
Yeah.
but the second, they're barking throughout the house, whatever, right?
Yeah.
But then when they go in the crate, they're getting corrected, wouldn't they associate the crate as a negative
Do you mean from the
space?
e-collar or from the bark collar?
I guess we could start with from both, from
Well,
bark
the
collar and the.
dog. So if the dog's barking outside of the crate and they're wearing a bark collar, they're going to get a correction.
Of
So
course.
there won't be. So there won't be
But
that association.
but if they're wearing the bark collar when they go in the crate, because that's when the problem is going to
So you're saying if
arise.
they're only wearing it in the crate?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely a possibility for sure. Which is why it's important to utilize the crate. So this way, and make sure that you're giving the dog the right physical and mental stimulation. And using the crate in a way and training the dog in such a way that there's a positive association with it. And that would be just through rewarding the dog, making sure that going in the crate has nothing to do with the corrections and it's only happening when they're barking. But yeah, if every time you put the dog in the crate, they immediately start barking, then get corrected, it would be a high possibility that they could associate the corrections with being in the crate. So, which again is why like everything should be addressed, in a holistic manner, like giving the dog what they need and then layering in this expectation, not just randomly saying, hey, you need to be in here and be quiet and we're going to give you nothing else throughout the day, so that's not good.
Cool.
Hope that helps. All right, what's next?
Question 2.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I can't.
Let's do it.
Okay, let's go. You know what it was? It was like how do I say this? Like, yeah, obviously question 2.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's right. We're right on track, baby.
Do you want
One,
me
two,
not
three.
to? Do you want me not to say question 2?
Nah, it's okay. I was just like very confident. Mm-hmm.
Sorry,
right.
I don't know why that was so funny, but anyways, let's keep going. And we're back. Thank you for being open to emails and questions. I've been listening to your podcast and find the episodes very helpful. Thank you. My question has to do with my dog's reactivity to other dogs. Our dog, Araya, that's cute, is almost 2 years old and is a Rottweiler. She became part of our family at 5 months old in September in Chicago. We knew ahead of time that she was a lot more spunky than other dogs, but we didn't think we would have any issues as she is our 4th Rottie and we had no problem training the others. We immediately started to socialize her, but the Chicago weather changed that fairly quickly. The following spring, when we took her out in public, she became very reactive when seeing any other dogs. We have taken her to training at 2 different places, and while she wasn't perfect, she was pretty good and only flipped out a few times. She just graduated from the last place last week. She even won 2 of the competitions they held. So she's a great learner. But when I took her out for a walk, a dog was about halfway block away and she went nuts. She lost total focus and wouldn't even take food. The other dogs started barking as well. I'm not sure how to handle this, and I'm so confused on her bubble of comfort, socializing her, even if she's acting this way, or what to use to get her to feel better about seeing other dogs. Please help.
All right, there's a few things I want to unpack here. So you've taken her to training at 2 different places and she was pretty good, only flipped out a few times. So
And won competitions.
Yeah, but so I'm assuming that she was around other dogs based on the way that you worded that. And there's a couple of things to keep in mind. I would want to know more information about the history of your dog before I would ever give you a concrete recommendation. So please take all this with a grain of salt. But first thing is, I would suspect that it's possible that she could be more reactive when she's presented sort of out of the blue, I'll say, with another person and or dog approaching. So like if she looks up the street and all of a sudden there's a person there, that could be part of the reactivity. I would also want to know, where is the reactivity coming from? Meaning, is the dog nervous? Is she trying to be a bully? Like what's the deal? So I would want to ask you if she's ever met any other dogs in person. How is she? How does she interact with them? What does it seem like her intentions are? Have you brought her to dog parks? Anything like that, right? So have you gotten her around dogs? What's her expectation of other dogs? So,
and just to clarify, not bring the dog park to see how she would do, right?
No, I would want to know.
Did you bring your dog to the dog park, and has she been frequently visited there? Maybe that's potentially the reason.
Yeah,
why. Gotcha.
Yeah, because then there's the expectation from the dog to have an interaction with other dogs. So that could
Yeah.
be where the reactivity comes from. So yeah, it's difficult for me to give you specific. So I'll give you some general advice, and I hope this helps. There's three things that I tell my clients to do when their dog is, let's say, hyperfixated on a dog. Try to make a sound and try to get their attention. If they can look at you, you can engage with them through petting, praise, food reward, toy reward, and give them feedback for that. The idea is that whenever they look at a dog, you make that sound or say their name, you get their attention, and they get a reward for their ability to disengage with them, that thing, the dog, and then engage with you. If that doesn't work, then I'll touch the dog. I tell my clients to touch the dog. Usually, like, I'll tell them to do like an annoying touch, like put your finger in the dog's ear, or touch their head, kind of lightly pinch their ear, something like that. And if that doesn't work, then we move away and we create space. But let me go back to the touch. If you touch the dog and they look at you, reward that. So we want to reward them again for their ability to disengage with the dog or the person or whatever, and then engage with you. Then if that doesn't work, I'll move away from the dog and allow the leash to get tight, and then just gradually continue to walk away until they turn around. Once they turn around, again, I get a little excited. I'm trying to encourage them to pay attention to me, and I'll put that on repeat. I'm not opposed to giving the dog a correction, but the first thing that I would have you work on is trying to engage with the dog. And I wouldn't necessarily like recommend a strong correction right away to discourage it, just because, again, I'm not really quite sure why they're reacting that way. And that's important for me in terms of when I use a correction for a dog. So because of that, I would recommend focus on engagement. Yeah, and because I don't know more, I would really just leave it at that. Like, engagement is a big part of what I work on when I work on reactivity, normalizing being around other dogs, creating positive associations, and then when it's appropriate, providing meaningful consequences to let the dog know, basically, like, that stuff doesn't work. Knock it off. It's not going to work for you. It's not necessary, and it's not accepted. Do this instead. Right. But in most cases, if I don't know, or if it's like nervousness from the dog, I focus on the do this instead part. And then I add in, don't do that. Right. The correction that says don't do that. So that's where I would leave it. Yeah. If I had more, maybe you want to shoot back with some more information, and we'll revisit the question. But I will say this though about Rotties. Rotties are some of the, in my experience, man, they are like tenacious dogs. I've met quite a few Rotties that I said to my clients, I'm so glad your dog is friendly, because if you were contacting me for like aggression, human aggression, I mean, I would take it, but I would be like pretty nervous.
Muzzle.
Well, because I've given some Rotties, like happy-go-lucky Rotties, and Rotties that have been a little bit more on the EU side. I've given them some strong corrections, and they eat those corrections. It's like nothing to them. They're like, who cares? So, this is also why I think, and I'm not opposed to the correction, but even still, I would still want to lean towards, hey, like, pay attention to me. Don't worry about the other dogs.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I was just going to add, and I mean, you let me know what you think. I would say don't be discouraged by the fact that she seemed like she was doing well with this training program and what she's doing with you, because oftentimes when dogs are placed in training programs or are working with a different handler, the situation is completely different.
Yeah, agreed.
Because there's a certain
dynamic.
dynamic, and like there's a tone that's set with this new person right off the get-go. Like you set a tone with a dog that you just meet, versus the tone that their owners have set over and over again, and so
like a lack of handling, lack of confidence in handling.
So like with this training program, it's like, of course she did well, right? Because it's a new handler. There's a expectation that was set right in place, versus now you have her, and she's used to behaving a certain way, so she might just be falling in line to what she's used to potentially, and or maybe using the owner as, if this is a bullying type of reactivity, then she's using her owner as like, yeah, she's got my back,
Yep.
watch,
Yeah, yeah.
type of
Yeah,
situation.
good point. Yeah, that could definitely be it. And then again, just the consistent exposure in that group class could have been helping a lot for your dog to normalize being around other dogs. And now, like I said, out of nowhere, somebody just pops up, and so it just kind of catches her off guard. Could be a territorial thing if it's happening more around the neighborhood. Yeah, a lot of questions I would like to ask to be able to dive further into that. But thank you so much for your question. What's next?
Okay.
Say it.
Question 3.
Mm-hmm.
Dun, dun, dun. I hope you're both doing well.
Thank you.
I've been following you a while, and I've learned so much about being a good guardian to my 2-year-old Australian Labradoodle, my first ever pup. I wanted to ask you about flight instincts. She's always been pretty noise sensitive and cautious, especially in new environments. I've implemented more structure in the house. She gets daily crate and place time. I do allow her on furniture because I don't think she has any major behavioral issues, no biting, instant barking, chewing, etc. And I'm able to tell her off and she gets off right away. We've come a long way with our loose leash walking. Now there's hardly any pulling. In the past, she would want to say hi to every single dog on the leash, so I stopped that altogether, which has helped tremendously. However, she's very flighty even on the leash. Are there things I can do to reassure her that I'm here to keep her safe? A few months ago, we were hiking off leash and we walked by a fence which three giant German, that's like a tongue twister, which 3 giant German shepherds rushed to. She bolted before I even noticed the dogs. Luckily, she has a tracker, so I caught up to her about 15 miles away. Jeez. Ordinarily, she has a really good recall, but the day it all happened so fast, she was gone before I could process what happened. I just got an e-collar, so I plan to train that next. On leash on our walks, if there are any sudden sounds, I can see her flight instincts kick in. I feel like she's constantly scanning the area and always looking around and behind. My gut tells me this is a relationship issue, but I'm not sure if there's any specific things I can do to reassure her. Thank you in advance, and I hope to hear your thoughts on that. I've been researching fight, flight, freeze instincts, but haven't seen anything that addresses this.
Yeah. So first and foremost, don't use an e-collar. Don't even bother with that yet, please. What I highly recommend you do is put her on a long line, and even just walking around your neighborhood, give her the freedom to move around. And it's a lot easier said than done as far as like leash handling goes. Admittedly, you're probably going to feel like the long line is overwhelming because it's a 20 or 30-foot leash, which I'd recommend something about that long, either 20 or 30 feet. But there's a lot of maneuvering you have to do with the leash as the dog is kind of going around. But what I do with dogs like you're describing is I play a little game, like a little check-in game. And there's a lot of things I'm looking for when I do this. So if I'm walking the dog around the neighborhood, I'm looking for opportunities where the dog is calm, where I can visibly see that they're calmer, right, than maybe they just were, so that I can praise that. So I can say, good boy, good girl. And then just, if she'll take food, for example, I would reward her with food if she'll take it. And whether she takes it or not is also something that I would be observing. If she takes the food, then I know that she's at least comfortable enough to eat the food. If a dog is in a high stress scenario, one of the reasons why they wouldn't eat is because, number one, loss of appetite, which a lot of us experience ourselves when we're stressed as humans, but also because if if you feel like your life is being threatened, you're not going to stop to eat. You know what I mean? Like, now's not the time. Like, we need all the blood going to our brain and our lungs, not our digestive system. So like instinctually, we're not going to do that. So it's a good gauge to see where the dog is at. And I would encourage and just basically work on check-ins. Get your dog to come back to you and feel like you're the safe place when they're calm and you're petting them and they're chill and you're just allowing them to observe. You're literally just conditioning them and walking them through this process. I wouldn't use an e-collar because, and I don't know you, and no offense to your handling or anything, but I wouldn't trust that you would use it correctly right now. I think that there's more things that are important for you to work on, like leash handling and just learning how to read the dog. Off leash should not be an option for her. Obviously, she runs. She's a flight risk, so she should never be off leash until you can get a real good gauge on where the dog is at. And I'm not opposed to ever putting a e-collar on the dog, but right now it's just not important. Engagement, focusing on observation, getting a good understanding of when you should be praising her rather than sort of trying to convince her that everything's okay, waiting for that window of opportunity when she becomes calmer. You might notice that she backs away from things to get like a better perspective or like an assessment. So she's like, oh crap, what was that? So she runs away 10 feet, 20 feet, and then she stops, turns around and looks at it. And then she's like working through it. That's a good time to go, good girl, good girl. Everything's cool. See, right? And then come here. She comes over to you, good girl, pet her, love on her. Will she take food? Give it to her. Encourage her to go back out and investigate something. She starts putting her nose down. She's sniffing things. Good girl. We like that. Sniff the environment. Become comfortable. Those are the things that I'll be working on right now. And that's also how you can help build your relationship, because you're literally walking her through it. You're step by step. You're like, good job, good job, good job, good job. If she's nervous of something and tries to flight, all you're going to do is pretty much anchor down on the leash so that she can't fully escape. And just kind of, if she needs to create a little bit more distance, like she's pulling away, if you have the space, you can allow her to move away more. And again,
like observe from a distance.
Yeah, exactly. Observe from a safe and comfortable distance that she determines is safe and comfortable, and then guide her back over to that thing if possible. And again, just encouraging little pieces of curiosity. And you have to pay attention to the dog. You have to be going out there with the intention of just watching the dog the entire time and constantly giving feedback, learning when to keep your mouth shut and not try to convince the dog that it's okay. And then learning when to speak up and say, hey, you're doing amazing. Good girl. Come here. Yay, good job. And getting a little playful and just keeping things lighthearted. The way that you carry yourself and interact with the dog in those moments is like of the utmost importance. So you really have to be on your stuff, on your toes, and paying very, very deep attention.
And for clarification, when you talk about keeping your mouth shut, you're referring to like not coddling the dog,
Correct.
not saying it's okay.
Yep.
Things like that to get them to be more comfortable. How do you feel about, since she's afraid, kind of almost doing like a puppy intro approach, like taking her to Home Depot or Lowe's, because there's a lot of unexpected loud noises. Somebody's like chopping wood.
Yeah, that's a great idea. But I mean, just based on some of the things I'm hearing, I would say, I don't know, looks like even in the neighborhood, she's nervous. So somewhere like that, like Home Depot might be a little bit too confined for her, with the aisles, too much new stuff. Plus, I think it's important for the owner to develop the skills before bringing them into a more difficult situation where there's a lot more potential for things to like go off. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So yeah, take it slow. First thing is observe the dog. Get into the habit of knowing what you're looking at and knowing when is a good time to be quiet and to encourage the behavior that you're looking for, which is again mostly going to just be curiosity. Anything that looks curious, stepping towards something that's new, all that stuff.
Cool.
What else we got?
That's it. That's all the questions we have. Yeah.
That was deep. That was quick. All right, cool.
Yeah, that's all I got.
That's incredible. I don't believe that. That's a short episode. All right, it is what it is. Cool.
Small little bites of information.
Dang. That's that Apple MacBook charger. That thing is so stupid looking. It's a weird shape and then just falls out of outlets. Anyway, we love your questions. Remember, the more detail you give me about your situation, the more in depth I will go, and I can go for you. So write a book. We'll summarize it on the show, and then we'll let you know what's up. Really appreciate you guys and your questions. Don't forget, if you want to send a question, send it to our email, info@leaderofthePackLV.com. And then
is it? It's Lead Your Pack.
It's also leadyourpacklv.com. It's also leaderofthePackLV.com. Layla doesn't even know. I have both websites.
Websites or emails?
Big fail.
Emails and websites are different. The website, yes, Leader of the Pack LV or Lead Your Pack LV. Huh.
Oh dang. Yeah, never mind. Don't email us at info@leaderofthePackLV. All right. That's really funny.
Okay, just to clarify,
So
it's info at leadyourpacklv.com.
lv.com. Yeah,
You got that?
I do.
Okay.
That's really funny.
But I just also want to add, thank you guys so much for following, supporting, and listening to these episodes. And we appreciate you guys so much.
We love it.
Because we love doing this. This is fun for us.
Yeah.
And you help us continue doing that.
And also, side note, don't forget to put podcast question in the subject line because that's a real big deal for Layla.
I feel like that was just so unorganized.
Yeah, that's okay. Whatever, we're rolling with it. I mean, this is life, right? Sometimes things happen. Sometimes you forget your own email address. Yeah.
Yeah. You try to throw me under the bus. I see how it goes.
Yeah, I did. Oh, I wasn't throwing you under the bus. I was just
doubting me.
I was like, what are you talking about? I have two websites, not 2 email addresses.
So just one last time, because you're confusing.
Yeah, I'll say it. If you want to email us at info@leadyourpacklv.com. And don't forget to put podcast question in the subject line. And,
get an A, sir.
We'll see you guys for the next one. Peace.
Bye.